Most people who try to grow blueberries from store-bought fruit make the same mistake and then wonder why nothing ever sprouts. This video walks through 2 ways to plant supermarket blueberries at home and shows exactly why one of them gets you way more plants than the other. Not all blueberries in a supermarket tray are the same, and the ones worth planting are, pretty easy to spot once you know what to look for. When picking fruit to use, always go for the largest berries in the pack. Bigger berries tend to carry more developed, more viable seeds. And since the whole point here is to get as many seeds as possible that can actually germinate, starting with the biggest ones gives a real advantage right from the beginning. It takes exactly the same amount of time to process a small berry as a large one. So, there's really no argument for choosing smaller. Most trays won't have many large ones, but those few are worth prioritizing above everything else. Pick the biggest ones available, set them aside for planting, and leave the rest for eating. Size is the first and easiest filter to apply, and it really does make a difference to the number of plants that eventually come through. Just grab the largest ones and keep moving. Now, there are 2 ways to go about planting, and the difference between them isn't just a matter of technique. It's the difference between getting dozens of healthy seedlings and getting, almost none at all. The first method is the slice method. Cut the blueberry straight across the middle, press the halves face down onto the substrate, and let the seeds germinate from inside the flesh. It's fast, it needs no prep, and it feels like the obvious way to go. The second method involves fully separating the seeds from the pulp before anything goes into the soil. It takes a few extra minutes up front, but the results are, dramatically different. And that difference comes down to one thing: competition. When seeds sit surrounded by sugary, moist pulp while they're trying to germinate, fungi move in fast and compete directly for space, nutrients and moisture. And fungi, almost always win that fight. With clean seeds, no pulp, no juice left behind, that competition never gets a chance to start. That's the whole mechanism, really. Get that part and the whole thing starts to make sense. The extraction process sounds more involved than it actually is. Once the steps are clear, going from a handful of whole berries to a collection of clean, ready-to-plant seeds takes, just a few minutes. Put the berries in a container and add water until it's roughly half full. Work the fruit in the water. Press it, release it, press again. This breaks down the flesh and frees the seeds inside. Let everything settle for a moment. The seeds, being denser than the pulp, will sink to the bottom, while the broken down flesh floats to the surface. Pour that liquid off carefully. Most of the pulp goes with it. Add fresh water and repeat. After 2 or 3 rinse cycles, what's left at the bottom is a small cluster of clean seeds, pretty much free of any pulp. Transfer them onto a paper towel and let them dry. This is also the right moment to remove any remaining pulp bits by hand. Once the moisture starts leaving, they become much easier to spot and pull off. If the seeds can't be planted the same day they're extracted, once dry, they can be stored in the paper towel for up to about 1 month. But, the general advice is always to plant them as soon as possible. These are tiny seeds, and the fresher they are at the time of sowing, the better the germination rate tends to be. With the seeds ready, the next decision is the substrate. And this is where a lot of setups go wrong before a single seed even makes contact with the soil. The substrate to go with here is compost. Organic compost is the better choice, and the one property it absolutely has to have is looseness. Blueberry seedlings push out incredibly fine, tiny roots at the start. Roots so small that packed soil is basically a wall they can't get through. If those roots can't move freely, they simply can't reach the moisture and nutrients they need to keep growing. Use compost that's visibly soft and airy and break it up before filling the container if it needs it. Fill to about 1 inch below the rim to leave room for the plant to develop once it starts to come through. Press the surface very lightly with a spoon. The goal is level and even, not packed down. A container with a lid rounds out the setup. Close the lid, and what happens is the water evaporates, hits the lid, condenses, and drips back down. That cycle keeps conditions stable without any manual watering and basically does the work for you once it's running. Before any seeds go in, there's one more step, one that sets the whole moisture balance of the tray for the entire germination period. And that's easy to get wrong the first time around. Before placing any seeds, water the substrate. Use the finest spray available, a mist, not a pour, and wet only the top surface, roughly the first centimetre deep. Everything below that point should stay exactly as it was when the container was filled. The goal is surface moisture, not saturation. Once the lid goes on, that thin, wet surface layer evaporates, rises, condenses on the lid, and falls back as fine droplets. That cycle just keeps repeating. It holds a steady humidity level throughout the whole germination period, with no further watering needed. It also means the seeds hit moisture the moment they're placed down, which, kicks off germination earlier than if the surface were dry. Get this part right at the start, and the whole system basically runs itself from that point. No daily lid lifting, no disturbing the seeds, no guessing. Simple principle, and I mean, it just works. Now comes the actual planting, and this is where the two methods fully split apart, and where the difference between them becomes most visible. For the slice method, cut each berry straight across the middle and press the halves gently into the substrate until they sit flush with the surface. The seeds are embedded in the flesh and will try to germinate from there. Covering the slices with a thin layer of compost on top is optional. Leaving them exposed on the surface works fine too and makes it easier to watch what's developing over time. For the clean seed method, spread the dried seeds directly across the moist substrate surface in an even distribution. No need to push them below the surface. Just press each one lightly with a fingertip, so it makes direct contact and can start drawing in moisture right away. Once both trays are planted, place them in the warmest and brightest indoor spot available. Light matters from the very first moment germination begins. The more natural light the seedlings get early on, the faster the whole growth cycle moves, from the first tiny sprout through to a plant that's actually ready to be transplanted out. Here's what's going to happen in the slice tray over the coming days, and it's something that catches a lot of first-time growers completely off guard. As the days pass, the pulp left in the slice tray starts to change. What begins as pale, moist flesh gradually gets darker, and before long, visible fungal growth appears across the cut surface of the fruit. If nobody warned about this, it looks like the whole tray is ruined. It's not, but it is a real problem because those fungi are competing directly with the germinating seeds. The sugar in blueberry pulp is exactly what fungi need to grow fast. And once they get going in that tray, they go hard. A lot of seeds won't survive that competition. Some will make it through, but the number that actually germinate and reach a viable size is way lower compared to the clean seed tray, where, none of this happens at all. Without pulp present, fungi have nothing to feed on. The seeds come up with no competition and no interference whatsoever. Put both trays side by side after the same amount of time, and the difference kind of speaks for itself. More plants, bigger plants at every stage.